live.
We're live.
Yeah.
We're live. Here we are.
All right, there's enough butt jokes then.
Yeah, no more butt jokes. We got nine people on board already.
Yeah,
Instantly.
well,
That's
happy
a record.
Days. Happy days. Well, their mothers might be waiting until 10 o'clock. Apparently, it was advertised as 10 o'clock. Sorry. This is as good as it gets, really, isn't it?
It is.
All right, so there we go.
Welcome to another episode of Knifemaking Downunder podcast. We're coming to you live. Corin and I are like, look at this. Social distancing. Oh. We're actually at Kev's Forge. We're down at my place. Corin's on his way down to Cooma, catch up with Yui from 84 Engineering.
Yeah, now some of the restrictions have been lifted.
And we've got Mert, who's our usual contender, on with us as well, Mert from the Hunter Valley. And we have our very special guest with us who we've been chatting to for a little while already. We've got Steve Schwarzer, all the way from North Florida.
Yeah,
That's in
hanging
America.
out.
That's in America.
It is.
We got a Florida man on. We got a Florida man on our podcast.
They say, what do you do in Florida? I said, we kill things and form our own governments. That's what we do.
Well, there we go. So Steve, thank you for joining us tonight and being our special guest. I think you'll agree at the end of this that we're the special ones.
Yeah.
But not in a good way.
We're special and you're our guest.
I think I owe the listeners an apology. I got drunk last time and just decided to end the podcast. Yes, that was me.
It's not a coincidence that Corin is at my house. He was reprimanded and told to front up and I would take care of his behaviour in person based off last week where I didn't show up myself. Cracking. So thanks for joining us. So Steve.
Yeah.
I imagine there's a few people listening who may not know who you are, though. That's hard to fathom. But let's educate them. Tell us a little bit about yourself in a nutshell. We can ask some questions, but you want to do it that way?
Yeah.
We're going to ask some questions.
Well,
All right.
All right. Let me ask you this. How many of these people know Henning?
They all know Henning, but
Most
that's because
of
he
them.
crashes the podcast every week. We're kind of...
Well,
Henning's
I taught Henning everything he knows. So there you go.
Right. So you're the man responsible. There you go.
Yeah. No, I've been doing this for 50 years now, and I really enjoy it. And at this twilight end of what I do, it's especially rewarding because I've started teaching a lot more and a lot of little subtle techniques and stuff that I use and the way I do it. It's not a wrong way or right way, but the way I do things. It seems to help people, and you can push people way ahead by teaching, and I enjoy it. That's everybody thinks I went to South Africa to teach, but I went to South Africa to learn. One of the things about Henning, he fits knives together in a very unusual way, and he is good at it. You look at his keyhole stuff and all that. That's what I wanted to learn now. I came over to learn, and anywhere I go, every day I learn something new. And
Have you looked in the mirror, mate? You're too old to learn.
No, I am.
Stop breaking the rules.
I got this half a sheep on my face, and because it's my COVID mask, I just pulled it up. Kind of like this. Jamie, my buddy Jamie, I saw that thing with all that hair tucked in his face, and I thought, I got to do that, So anyway, that we hadn't been out of the house here in a few weeks, and so I just kind of let everything go. And then I got actually it was a physical notice from my wife to clean up, and I thought, well, I guess I better. Well, anyway, so there you go.
Yeah. Well,
But-
you're not alone. You're not alone on that, mate. I used to have
Yeah.
a pretty big beard, and my wife just thought it was disgusting. She hated it. I loved it, and now I've got like a mild 5 o'clock shadow, and I'm already getting the dirty looks. Go and clean up. Go and have a shave.
I'm growing a fro.
And Corin's growing.
Oh, hey, there's
Yeah.
all three of my fro right there. Can you see him? Let me get up.
Nice one.
You're a little bit ahead of Mert.
So,
Yeah,
Steve,
well,
Oh,
let's go back into the deep, dark past of Steve, mate. So tell me, mate, when did you get your first knife? How old were you? And what knife was it?
yeah, okay. Well, then I did my first forging when I was in the 7th grade. I was probably
No, when
13.
when did you get your own first knife? Not when you made one. When did you get one?
My own first knife. I was probably 5 years old, 5 or 6. And then when I got like in the 8, 9-year-old, I used to buy the knives out of the comics. I still have some of the damn things where they had the cast handles with a skull on the end, and I thought they were great. Yeah, and they were 25 cents.
Wow.
Anyway, I've got a couple of those things left, and I got them in my shop. But I see one of those old things in a junk shop somewhere. That's I gotta have it. I was always fascinated with sharp things and blowing up stuff and shooting stuff, so that kind of went all together. My dad trained me to use a rifle when I was probably 6 or 7 years old, and so knives are part of our culture in the South, especially. So everybody had a pocket knife. We had like soap carving in the 7th grade. Everybody had to bring a pocket knife to school. I was the only one that got mine confiscated because it was one of those Italian stilettos with a wave. And it would, you could flick the thing out and the teacher took it.
but think about the timeline where you're asked to bring a knife to school. Think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And we took guns to school. I mean, we really took guns to school once we were driving. We had guns in the car. Always had guns in the car.
Must have been great growing up in the 20s.
I got to go now. That was very hurtful.
Don't worry, I'll reprimand him later.
No, it actually was wonderful. There was no restriction, and we didn't realize how fast our abilities to take care of ourselves would be eroded. And that was, you look back on it in today's age and you're going, everything has got to be so politically correct. You're more terrified of hurting somebody's feelings than you are of shooting them. So it kind of goes hand in hand. But we used to get horseback. I had scabbards for my rifles and pistols on my belt. We'd get on a horse and ride for 20 miles, 30 miles, hunting rabbits and stuff. It was wonderful.
Whereabouts was this in the South? Whereabouts were you?
I was in Texas at the time, in Fort Worth, Dallas area.
Oh, yeah.
And we were in a little city called Pantego. It was a little incorporated city that was in the middle of that metroplex. Now that's all concrete. It's houses and concrete, and it's butted up. It's like any very dense urban area now. It used to be all farmland, all cattle ranches and stuff, and now it's all covered up in concrete.
Yeah, it would have changed a bit. All the places where I grew up and roamed, it's all houses and housing estates now.
That's it.
Yeah.
Where I'm living now was paddocks in the middle of nowhere, like just grassland, in the middle of nowhere. And now we're one of the last suburban areas before you head off through to the mountains.
Oh, that's cool. You can't be. We're in the very rural here where I live now. There's a lot of water. There's hundreds of lakes in this area. If you fly over this, it looks like a series of large ponds. And I actually live on about a 400-acre lake. my house backs up to it, and then we got alligators in the yard from time to time and that sort of thing. But we love it. Deer come in and eat your bushes. That pisses you off, and occasionally one of those deer will fall into the freezer and gets consumed.
Well, then you got to do what you got to do.
If you feed them, you ought to be able to harvest one. That's only fair.
Yeah. So you were saying, Steve, you were saying that you made your first knife. When was that? When you were like 12 years old or something?
Yeah, I was about 12 or 13. I was in the 7th grade. And I loved school. I would go to school and I'd find grades I liked and I'd just stay in them, sometimes a couple of years. But now forge a chisel. They actually had a shop where you forged. And you had a wood shop, you could make things, and you had a forge shop, you could forge things and learn to machine by hand and that sort of thing. And I did that, and then that went away. As I went into high school, all that stuff got shoved to the side. And then in the 60s, late 60s, I worked for a company called LTV Aerospace because that's where my dad worked. And I worked on the first, those big Saturn rockets, forging those big domes. We actually hand forged those under a Yoder power hammer. Me and the old man that knew what he was doing, I was on the other end of the sheet being yelled at because I wasn't keeping up. But anyway, we did that. And we built the first 747 jet vertical stabilizer. I was involved in that project. And then we had a lot of stainless steel in there that they used in aircraft. And I didn't know anything about heat treating or that sort of thing. So we ground out some knives out of it. And I call those my knife-shaped objects of the 60s because they weren't real knives because they weren't heat treated properly, but they look like knives. And of course, typically crude, we used whatever phenolic we could find in the shop and aluminum rivets and that sort of thing. And very typically crude. It looked like a homemade knife.
Let's say kind of like Kev's.
Yeah,
Sounds like I hope to get to that. I hope to get to that quality in a few years.
Yeah, it's kind of like Henning's work. It's a little rough, but I
look to Henning for inspiration.
No, I think Steve, it sounds like a very modern. You said you're using like phenolic stuff like acrylic and with aluminum rivets and rough. It looks like an average knife of a nowadays. Only thing is missing is your YouTube page.
That's, maybe soon. I'm building a new website now. Anyway, so I moved to Florida in '70, and I did all kinds of work, radio towers, and water tanks, and power line right-of-ways, and that sort of thing. And in 1972, I got a job doing heavy rigging, and we were moving 500,000-pound loads, building a power plant, moving the big generators and stuff. And I joined in with the Boilermakers Union in Jacksonville at 199 in Jacksonville. And it was Boilermakers, iron ship fitters, and blacksmiths. And there were no blacksmiths in the local. There were none. And so I got a book by Alex Beeler on the art of blacksmithing. And there was a page and about a quarter on forging knives. And I read that. And I don't know, it triggered something in me. It just changed everything. And so I went out and got me a rivet forge and an anvil and some old crosscut saw blades. And I would heat those things up and cut them out with a cold chisel on the face of that anvil. People tell you can't destroy an anvil. I can destroy an anvil. I didn't know any better. I was supposed to cut on this other face anyway. So I turned my anvil into an embossing die. Everybody goes with, well, I'm making a brute de forge. Well, all I had to do was put the steel on that anvil and hit it, and it made it a brute de forge. That was some ugly stuff. Anyway, went along a little further, and I was making these big fillet knives out of this L6, this crosscut saw blades, and selling them for the enormous price of $15 and $20 US. And I was just so proud of myself. And the guys that used them loved them because they cut like crazy. And so they told me I was wonderful. So I assumed that I was. Anyway, I heard about a guy up on a job that I was working at. I was working like 115 miles from the house. I don't know what that is in kilometers, but it's a lot more of those than it is miles. But the guy's name was Bobby Tyson, and I found him. He was a pipe fitter, and I was going to be a pipe fitter, but I had to be a boilermaker because they found out my parents were married. Anyway, I went up. I went up to Bobby Tyson. And I said, "I hear you make knives." And he said, "He's a real humble guy," and he pulls out this beautiful pocket knife, and it clicked and clacked and did all the things it was supposed to do, and it was made out of some kind of magical steel called D2 I'd never heard of. And so he made a mistake. He said, "Let me see your work." And I said, "Oh, you don't want to see this." Anyway, I started backing away from it, and I didn't want him to see that bunch of ugly stuff I had in my pocket. And anyway, he convinced me to show him, and I showed him, and he said, "You know, I have books on making knives." I said, "There are books on making knives? You're kidding me." I thought I was the only knife maker in the world. And he said, "There are books." And I said, "Where do you live?" He said, "Jacksonville." I said, "On the street address." And he made a mistake of giving it to me, and I moved in with it. But anyway, he was very kind to me, and he opened a shop to me, and in one weekend he moved me ahead on my finish work 5 years. And then as our friendship developed, I had a younger sister that was dying of cancer, and she wanted a pocket knife, and I had never made a pocket knife. So Bobby could make 2 of those things in a day. He was that good. And I went to him. I said, "My sister wants a pocket knife, and I need help." Anyway, he helped me make that first knife, that first pocket knife. I presented it to her, and I was happy about that. And then I probably made 40 more before I made one that you could open without having somebody a set of pliers to pull it in.
So it didn't have a nail nick; it had a pliers grip.
Yeah. Anyway, a nail nick wasn't a nail nick; it was a nail remover. It would pull the nail off your finger. Anyway, I finally got it figured out. I went back up there for lesson 2, and he says, "What are you setting the pins with?" I said, "A 4-pound hammer." He said, "Stop. Anyway, I got it figured out, and then I started forging and doing Damascus work. I did forge work till probably, I'll continue to do it all the time, but I'm thinking my first Damascus was around 76. And,
that was a good year. That was a good year, 76. I was born in 76.
You were? Well, I remember that.
Yeah, no doubt. You remember me, mate?
Yeah, the Earth axis tilted. Yeah, I remember. Anyway, I went over to, heard about an old cowboy over in West Florida, Al Pendray, and he forge welded, and his dad forge welded, and I drove over there. And it's about 80 miles. I don't know what that is in clicks, but it's a long way. Anyway, I went over there.
130.
The old man had his back to me. And he's sitting in a chair.
And the back in the days, Mert, you had to ride a horse. Sorry, Steve, keep going.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. We were in a covered wagon. Anyway, a cart.
The frontier wagons.
That was a time in my life that I was so destitute that I drove a Ford. You could find them abandoned on the side of the road anywhere. It was just some kind of trying to get going on. Anyway,
Steve, do you know what Ford stands for?
Hey?
Do you know what Ford stands for?
Fix or repair daily.
No, fault of research and development.
My wife is a Ford fanatic. I got anyway, so I started pattern welding, and it just went crazy. It was just fun, developing a lot of techniques, and I didn't want to do the ordinary patterning. I wanted to do something extraordinary, and so I began to study ancient Egyptian glass and barrel making process that they had in Liège, Belgium. And they had a gun barrel museum in there where they were stacking all these rods and making pictures and names and dates and all that stuff, these little square rods. And I wanted to see that, but the museum was kind of shut down and they wouldn't let you take a picture in there. So a friend of mine that was on a traveling thing in Europe, and he bought a Pentax spy camera. And he went in that museum and he photographed everything in there. I still have the slides. And so it gave me kind of a stair step, into the construction. And then I began to work from there to develop a lot of images. So it just kind of built on itself. It's fun. I love it. I go out there every day. I'm excited to go to the shop every day.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's
So you're
always something new.
From the rumours, mate, you were like one of the pioneers of canister Damascus. Is that the case?
That's a fact. The canister stuff, there was another group also doing it, fooling with it, and I don't know when they started, but Daryl Meyer and Bill Farini and Jim Wallace, they were doing serious Damascus pattern research up at Carbondale, Illinois. And what we did with the canisters is there's a system called HIP. It's hot isothermal press. And that's where you put a can around your material you want to bond, and you put it in a chamber. You pull a vacuum on it, seal it up in the chamber, and you run 20, 30,000 PSI of argon in there at temperature, about 2300 F or a little higher. And it consolidates this stuff perfectly. Well, those machines cost $250,000. I couldn't afford one. So I figured that I would make a poor man's model of this. And so I began to put things in canisters. And then first I took these Freon gauges like you used to put refrigerant in cars with. And I made a tube and I put it on the can and I purged that and got all the oxygen out. And that's the key to any of it. And I got the oxygen out, and then I would forge the thing. I would keep a little positive pressure. Well, it didn't take long to find out the minute you started forging it, if you had a vacuum on there, it would suck oxygen in there when it cracked, and so it defeated the purpose. So I left a little positive pressure on it, and I was welding up stuff at temperatures. If I told you how cold it was, you would call me a liar. I'd have to show you. But I was able to do some stuff, so I was doing the canister stuff. And then what nuclei off of that was I discovered powder metal technology and I adapted that into canisters. I was the first one to do that. And Daryl may have been doing canisters at the same time as me. I don't know for sure, but I assume that it was. And so we were both utilizing these techniques, but the powder, I was the first with the powder metal technology. And I did.
So what were you doing? What were you doing that was different? Yeah.
Well, what happened is I got introduced to powder by a guy named Gary Runyon.
We all remember who introduced us to powder the first.
Yeah,
Sorry, keep going.
Corin's thinking about the first time he was introduced to powder, and it didn't end well.
Yeah. I learned how to do that from Gary Runyon. He was a head guy for Teledyne, and they made all kinds of stuff out of powder metal in the industry. And I met him the first time. He was up at Batson's first hammer in, and that he had at his house. It's now they have this big event every year, but this year COVID took that out. But anyway, he was trying to wick borax and nickel powder into a piece of cable. And I've been doing canisters for a few years at this time, and I went up to him and I looked at it and he said, "Can you help me?" And I said, "Yeah, get a piece of pipe. We'll put that thing in there and cap it off. It'll weld." And it did. And so I went up there to his shop at Teledyne and taught a class on making knives and looked at all the powder. Well, that led to me wanting to do a signature, my actual signature in a piece of steel. Now, block letter signatures have been done for a couple of hundred years, but actual script signature, my actual signature, I still have bars of that stuff in my shop. But I had a friend of mine that had a wire EDM, and he cut my name out. And of course, with the big, the laughable part is my parents wanted me to be a doctor, so I just learned to write like one.
Yeah, my wife too.
It was terrible.
My darling,
I had these big loops, and in those loops are little pieces of material that had to fit in back in there. And so he cut this thing out, and it was in a 2-inch block. And I looked at it, and I brought it home, and I was trying to stick these little pieces of 10,000 sheet down in that damn thing, and it wouldn't go. So I went back to him, and I said, "Cut this thing in half. I'm going to use it as a forging. I'm going to push that stuff in there." And he said, "Okay." So he cut it. Well, when I put it in the press, I destroyed the damn thing. I'm going to paraphrase Joe. Joe was very colorful with his language, but I took it back over there to him, and I said, "I had a problem." And I think what he said was, "Golly gee, I wish that hadn't happened."
I can imagine that.
Yeah, but it took about a half hour for the steam to stop coming out of his ears. I said, "Can you cut another one?" And this takes forever to do this thing. It's a lot of wire time. And I think his response was, "Sure, I'd love to," sort of. Anyway, he did. And he got it, and I went to pick it up, and we're sitting there looking at it, and I'm sliding these bits in and out. And he said, "Too bad we can't pour that in there." And the process nuclide right there in my head, I said, "We can." Anyway, we bought this drum of nickel powder, and I filtered that powder down in that thing and welded it, and it came out perfect. I still have pieces of it. And so that was the start of the powder. And then I found out later on, I was working on a project, and I'd been using this burned stainless steel foil. When you had all this sacrificial material, then you've got to get it back off after it welds. And you need the sacrificial material to keep your image straight. So you've got to be inside the billet about 70% so you don't distort it with a hammer or a press. And you want to keep the image clean. And so I was using the stainless steel foil because nothing can weld to that if it's done right. And so I made it, built it up, and it worked perfectly. I grind into the foil, and then the extra material just fall off. I thought, well, that's cool. I ran out of the foil, and I got to thinking, well, what else can I use? I was making a little folder blade, and I needed to line it to get the sacrificial material off of it. And so I used paper. I thought, well, they use it in mokume gani, and I said, it ought to work in steel. I put that paper in there and welded the edge out, and I put it on a rod, put it in the furnace, and brought it up to low welding heat, very low welding heat, went bump, 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 and welded the thing up. And then I started grinding on the edges of it, and I couldn't find a weld seam anywhere. I kept grinding. I said, damn thing's got to come off. I couldn't find a weld seam. There was nothing. So I stuck it in the acid, and I could see mosaic all the way around the edge of this billet. Then I had to machine it off. And what happened is that paper had turned to carbon and had actually migrated into the part, lowered the eutectic level between the outside. It made a perfect welding flux. And so I went, oh my God, that's wonderful. Because then I could take my powder canisters and make all my forms out of paper and pour them with different powders, and it would weld perfectly and keep the powder segregated. So it just one technique added to the other. So that's what I do in my spare time.
So you're very good at origami then.
Yeah, it's redneck origami. I pull that paper money out of my pocket. Looks like somebody's been using it for a Kleenex. The cashier says, "What is that?" I said, "Redneck origami." Anyway, so long story short, one thing built on another, and then I found that in teaching, if you teach people, then you double your life in the business. And everybody you teach goes down a different road, and you do not have time to follow all the paths. But if you've got this stream of students out there, they're feeding back into you, and it just makes you grow. I love it.
Wise words, mate. Wise words. Share the knowledge.
We have to say that when we see the depth of knowledge, especially over in the US, and those that are actually teaching, sharing that knowledge, it makes the guys over here in Australia pretty envious of what you guys have got over there. When we see, you know, for example, like at the moment, Bill Burke and Rick Dunkley are running a Damascus liner lock course, and when we see those guys advertise that, and people go, "Oh, I'd love to get there, but I'll have to fly over." People in Australia, we're just going, We'll fly over.
Yeah.
Cost us a lot to get there, but when look at the domestic airlines and stuff in the US and the opportunities for people to learn, nothing like distance isn't a thing over there. And it's funny when you see the locals go, "Oh, it's too far to travel." We'd probably give half an arm and half a leg to be in those positions to be taught by people like yourself.
Well, Kev, we already did it, right? You went to Bill. I visited Bill like 4 years ago. Yeah, we've already done it.
Yeah, well, I did an impromptu liner lock class with Rick Dunkley. That was amazing. And like I said, I was probably in awe too much to really take in the information because of where we were.
He is brilliant. Him and Bill Burke are some of the most outstanding bladesmiths out there. Incredible. I really love Bill's work and Rick's work. I've known Rick since the 90s. I went out there in the 90s. Doug and I both went to Montana and helped them form the Montana Mafia.
Yeah.
And that I coined that term out there because they were all kind of independent guys, isolated guys, and especially that snake-eyed guy that got them old black eyes. Oh, that Shane Taylor. You can watch him like a hawk.
The black-eyed cat and stealing thief.
My God, he's a sneaky guy. You never know what. He's got an underground shooting range in his yard.
I know.
He's you think he's pure as the driven snow. Nah. Anyway, he invited me out to teach in the 90s, and we went out there, and I ripped the lid off of what I was doing and shared it with them, and they went crazy. It's unbelievable the work they did. It's Rick is probably one of the top folder makers in the world right now, and it's amazing what they did with the knowledge. And I got feedback from that for years and years, feedback from that. And I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And Josh Smith, he was about 13 years old. I got pictures of him and I working together in Shane's shop in the 90s. We watched that poor child go through puberty. It was a painful process. But he does incredible work. He's been making knives since he was a baby, and it's wonderful stuff. That's the other treasure.
I was at Rick Dunkley's Hammer-In last year, and they had the reunion of the Montana Mafia, the first time they'd all been together for a long time, which was pretty amazing. And I met Josh Smith for the first time, and he's just a top bloke, and the information that he was willing to share. But Shane. I actually got to say I have a very soft spot for Shane. Shane and I have shared a couple of moments together. Won't go too far into detail. But we stopped at Shane's house. we stopped at Shane's house and we drank his home brew, and then they were like, "Oh, come and see the firing range under the house," and I'm like, "Okay," and we went down there, and I was just like, "Who is this guy?" I'm a little scared.
As you should be.
Oh yeah, but like it's good hearing that you've had that sort of visiting to those guys at that time, because I've seen or we were at Rick's house. He put us up, and fantastic guy. But I saw some of the mosaic stuff that he was doing with like the rodeo riding stuff, the cactus. Shane doing all of his other stuff, and it's just like, where does this stuff come from? And obviously filters back to your influence, probably.
Yeah, I can't take credit for all. Don Fogg was out there as well.
Yeah.
And, what we did is we dropped ideas in the pot, and when you've got creative minds, they will do things with those ideas. Shared techniques, and it's like all this explosion pattern and stuff you see nowadays, all that stuff was developed out there. That was after we showed them our techniques. They went along. And I think I'm going to lay this one off on Shane. The first explosion pattern was done. It's because Shane lost track of where he was making the billet, and he got the damn thing a quarter turned out of shape and pushed it, and then he had to assemble it like that. Disaster. He turned it into pudding or something. Anyway, it was funny. One time he had a blade on a table, and it was obviously lettered, but it was mosaic. And I looked at it and I said, "What the hell is that, Shane?" He says, "Oh man, let's get over in the corner. I want to share something with you." Anyway, he had made this bullet and he lost count, and it had faces in it. And of course, the faces got so tiny that you couldn't articulate with your eye what they were. You couldn't make them out. So what he did, got pissed off. He decided he'd just make a piece of ladder pattern out of it. And so he laddered that real deep and then pulled it out. Well, what that did is it stretched the faces out, made them big again. and so it was a technique. It was wonderful. It was wonderful. That's better to be lucky than good anytime. But no, he's an incredible craftsman. Did he tell you about the blade, the $16,000 blade he left in the acid overnight? Did he tell you that story?
Yeah.
He had this thing, he worked months on it, and you can still see it. He sold it. It had a little hand coming off the side for a latch and that sort of thing. He spent months on this damn thing, and he put it in ferric chloride, and his wife came out and distracted him. He forgot about it, and they went to town. And when he came back, he had this blade. It had been in the ferric chloride about 10 hours or something when he remembered it. And he had to resurrect that thing. I shouldn't have told that, but anyway. I didn't. But
the funniest story I heard like that was recently Bill Burke made that tomahawk with the dragon's head and the spines coming off the back. Did you remember that one? Did you see that one?
Yeah.
2 years ago?
Yeah.
And it had a 24-karat gold inlay, and it was a big piece of 24-karat gold. And he lead tempered it, so he lead heat treated it, and he had the gold on it. And he thought, well, the gold doesn't melt at the same temperature, it should be fine. But gold dissolves in molten lead, so he's put it into the pot, and it's come back out without the gold on it. And he's like, his lead heat pot turned to about a $3,000 heat system. So he's drained out all the lead and sieved it, hoping to find it, but it's dissolved into the lead. So you've actually got to like chemically separate it. It's just like, fuck it. It's the most expensive tempering system out there.
So he's heat treating in now gold, like a 1 carat gold or something.
Yeah,
like a true pro. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually there. I saw Bill's picture of that tomahawk. I saw the concept, and then I saw the forging of it, and then we left, and then I saw the finished one afterwards, and I was like, holy shit.
That was a nice. I held it.
Oh,
I didn't hold
man.
it. He wouldn't let me touch it.
Yeah,
That was at Blade Show West.
yeah,
Fucking couple of years ago.
yeah, unreal stuff.
But anyway, yeah, nice. Yeah, funny stuff, man. Funny stuff. Fun
So-
times. It's interesting how a group of knife makers can get together and just form a community like that. That sort of grows and builds. I think we're kind of getting that happening in Australia.
We're starting to see more of it here.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're starting to see more of it here.
starting to see little spin-off groups,
Yeah.
regional groups. Yeah,
We just got to keep you got to keep everyone connected though, so you can't have the groups just disappear into different areas.
yeah, getting political and shit.
Yeah.
We just
Gotta keep
just
the whole thing
keep
running.
the whole thing running. So every year we have this event called the Australian Blade Symposium. Well, you're the president of the association.
well,
You can
that's
tell the
it.
story.
Apparently, I'm the president of the Knife Art Association, as voted by my peers. But we have this. You may or may not have seen it yet, Steve. But we have this event every year. We call it the Blade Symposium. And what we normally do is we invite out a mastersmith, generally from the US, and we encourage them to teach, some or run through a couple of topics in that, and then potentially teach a class afterwards. But that brings everyone from Australia, or from all around Australia, not everyone, but a large group of people from all around the country come into that one area, and there's such a massive community feel from it. And it's something that we're sort of working on and expanding on. So speaking of travelling, when we're over this bloody virus thing, mate, you're still in your prime. You'd probably be interested in coming out to Australia at some point, wouldn't you?
I've got my bags packed from last.
I was going to say, you went to South Africa. Surely you'd want to come to Australia.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my dad actually was, when I was in teen years, my dad was in Andamuka for almost 2 years down at the Woomera missile range. Yeah, he was
What,
there,
was
and he
that
kept
76? Was that 76?
No, he was down there during the Vietnam War, so it was 63, 64.
Oh, that's all right. He wasn't my daddy.
They built they built a Jundovic missile down there.
Yep.
And it was the first UAV, and they flew that thing up over China, North Vietnam, taking real-time photographs. It was the first UAV, and it was built.
What's a UAV? Sorry, what's a UAV?
One of those unmanned aircraft. Yeah, it was a drone.
Drone.
Yeah, drone.
The drone.
Drone.
Only it was
Oh, right, because they had the V2
like the
rockets
guy
in there,
next to you.
but they weren't controlled, right? They were just fucking fire and shoot.
Yeah, they'd fire that thing off and it'd do a turn. It'd shoot real-time photographs back. But so he was down. He was telling me about it. He showed me pictures of the kangaroos standing 3 deep in the shadow of a telephone pole. And but I want to. Are you guys anywhere near mud crabs? I'll throw my clothes away and fill my suitcase with mud crabs. That's my
We got mud crabs, man. No worries.
My old man, my dad used to go out getting the mud crabs, and he'd bring them home and he'd pop them into the bathtub, and we'd be in there. I was really young. We'd be in the bathroom, and he'd come in with a broomstick, and he'd go, "Don't put your fingers anywhere near those." And we're like, young kids with, "Oh, why, Dad? Why?" And he'd stick the broom handle in, like 3/4 of an inch or an inch thick broom handle. Those mud crabs just snap, and you take 2 steps backwards with your eyes like pizza plates.
We'll get you if you come down. We'll get you some bugs. Moreton Bay or Balmain bugs.
Oh yeah.
You're not lived until you've eaten bugs.
There are mud crabs in Uncle River.
It's got to be way better than those damn Mupani worms that Kevin Harvey gave me.
No, we don't do shit.
No, none of that, mate. No.
They're like little sweet little lobsters.
Small, mini lobsters.
Little mini.
Bloody good.
They're not like a scampi.
Yeah.
They're more like a fucking something that came out of like a dinosaur movie.
Yeah, they almost look like a prehistoric creature.
Yeah,
sea creature, but you'd eat them.
They're little, we call them bulldozers up here, but they're, I know exactly what you're talking about. I've researched everything there is to eat in Australia, and I hadn't cut anything off the list yet.
we'll help you out there.
We'll get you a kangaroo.
You guys set a date, I'll be there. I'm not afraid to come to Australia or fly or any of that kind of stuff. I load my ass up and go. But you got to hurry. I'm 73.
Yeah, that's all right.
No, that's all.
You got
That's all
plenty
right.
of time.
You got plenty of time, mate.
So
Plenty of
before
time.
we went on air, you were talking about the dangers of some of the foods that you've eaten through the Laos community. And I tell you, we've got something that will top anything that you've eaten from them. We'll take you to a football match and get you a meat pie.
Yeah, you get meat pies there. Don't you have meat pies?
No,
Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah, but we usually make it out of roadkill.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Same thing.
Same thing.
But we sell it at the football.
Yeah. Mate, nothing
Yeah.
like a meat pie. Beautiful. Put it in a bit of pea
Yeah.
and ham soup. Mashed peas.
Oh, you got to have it. Yeah, I could do that. It beats jellied cow skin.
Yeah.
Jellied cow skin.
Oh, that sounds all
That
right.
sounds African, actually. Where'd you eat that shit? Jellied cow skin. That's leather.
I'm sure the beer that Shrek gave him that. The beer
Oh,
that Shrek Henning.
I thought it was a damn meatloaf, and it was this cow skin had been cooked till it's like jelly, and it was, it was okay. Put enough pepper on anything, and it's good.
That's just to give it a bit of flavour.
Yeah, we make sheaves out of leather down here. We don't do that with it.
Yeah.
Mm. You can do it. Well, when you live in a culture where your biggest job of the day is finding something to eat, you'll eat damn near anything, and that's what happens. We get spoiled, you know. And these kids today said, "Where's the milk come from?" And they said, "From the grocery store." No, it comes from a damn cow. No, it doesn't. It comes in bottles. They're idiots. They have no idea. If they had to
Cow
go
titties.
kill the cow, cut it up.
Come on.
they had no
Come on.
better.
They're not idiots. You can't blame them for their teachers.
Okay. All right, I'll give you that one. Honey, I'm being PC. You want to get a picture?
We're recording this, don't you worry.
I love it. So you guys build knives all week and then do this once a week, or what do you do?
Yeah, we work all Thursday. Then we do this on a Thursday night, and then sometime around mid-afternoon on a Friday, we get out of bed and do it all again.
Yeah. Well, we're able to move again. Not blaming the alcohol.
Yeah,
Well, you got to come back next week to apologize for the week before, so that's a good thing.
That is exactly
I've already
right.
done
Yeah,
that for
he
those
did
that tuned in
that.
late.
He did that for last
I've already
time.
got that one covered.
I apologise for not. I apologise for not being on to control him.
That's all right. It makes it interesting.
Yeah, no, that's what it's all about. So, your knife making, I hate saying journey, but your knife making journey, when did you, like through the ABS, when did you get into your journeyman smith for a start?
I started off as a master smith.
Ah, and that was in 1981?
Yeah, the papers were signed in 81, and I'm on the books in 83. And there was some mix-up and a little bit of political stuff going on. But anyway, that's all in the past, and it is what it is. But I've got the paper signed by Bill Moran. What happened is there was a bunch of us working at that stage of the game, high level. And then Bill wanted to bring in his original guys that he had, his friends, into the thing first. But they didn't explain that to us, so they just kind of withheld some papers and that sort of thing. Anyway, it all worked out over time. And so it is what it is. In any organization, you've got these little rough spots and stuff, and then you work it out. Or you go form your own. That's the reason you got a different church on every corner.
I think we're aware of that.
Yeah. And the thing is that it's just like when I went to France in the 90s, I taught a bunch of those guys over there, and they were all cloistered away, and they didn't share anything. You and I will share more in 20 minutes than they'll share in 20 years. And so I went over there and I broke the door down on that. I was with a guy named Dennis Lemaire, and Denny's passed now, but he showed me all kinds of stuff. Anyway, we went in and just broke that whole thing up. And for about 10 years, they were sharing information, having hammer-ins and doing all that stuff. And now they're all back to fighting again. So it goes in cycles.
Yeah.
You know, people get jealous. But what people don't understand is I could come to your shop and study with you, and I could be your clone. I could make things exactly as you do, but I can never be you. And I'm gonna give you a prime case of it. I actually, in my talk I gave in South Africa, I talked about it. After Bob Lovelace became famous for his little drop point hunter, you could go into any knife show in the United States, and there would be anywhere from 50 to 300 guys making Bob Lovelace drop point hunters. And some of the guys were pretty good, and they were getting $200 or $300 for the thing. And the guys that were just really exceptional, and some of them were better than Bob. I mean, as far as quality and craftsmanship and stuff, they were getting $700 or $800 for one of those knives. And then you went over to Bob Lovelace's table, and he's sitting there being irascible and getting $2,500 a piece because he's Bob Lovelace. And so that's the thing is everybody, you can only make your own work. If you're guarded and jealous about what somebody else is doing, you better find another trade, because can anybody be you? Even if they copy your designs, it can only be a copy of your design. You get wound around a wheel of that, and I did. I'm not speaking out of turn here. I'm not pure as the driven snow by any stretch of the imagination. I had a guy copy my work and win a huge award with it. And then I was young and I got incensed about it, and we had a little tit for tat. And then when I finally saw what he had done, if I kept my mouth shut, I could have kept all that drama out of it and not alienated the guy and all that sort of stuff, because it didn't matter. It did not matter. The only person that can do my work is me. And that's the only person I'm in competition with. If you're in competition with the guy down the road, or afraid the guy down the road is going to steal the customer stuff, you better get your act together and get your product better.
Well, no one in the world can do what I do, because I don't even do it.
That's it. You got to have a story. And one of the things I use an example for that, there was a guy in California, he's passed now, his name was Phil Hartsfield. And the guy was a marketing genius. He'd take a flat bar of friggin' A2, and he'd grind a chisel grind off of one side with 60 grit scratches. He'd treat that thing and wrap the handle in paracord and dip it in epoxy. He had a Japanese movie star cut a helmet with it. And he had people lined up at shows selling those things for $8,000 US a piece.
Whoa!
And they were fighting over them and crying over them, and it was nothing. It wasn't about the object; it was about the story, and that's what most people don't get. You got to have a story. Look at Henning; he could tape $1,000 bills on his stuff, and it wouldn't sell. But he's got a story.
That's what I do. That's where I'm going wrong, see, because I don't have a story. I've just got excuses.
Sometimes Henning has the best story. Henning has the best story. He's like I'm the Shrek of South Africa. I make knives.
Yeah. I love that guy. He is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. He's like a younger brother. And
the other saying that goes around at knife shows is people don't buy the knife, they buy the maker.
Yeah. It's true. It's very true. If you're sitting there,
we love you, bro.
Yeah. If you're sitting behind your table, most of these guys will sit in a low chair. They're looking up at the guy that's coming to his table, and in between reading their phone or reading a damn book or something. And that guy walks up and goes, well, hell, he doesn't give a shit whether he sells anything or not. Well, no, you stand up and you look them in the eye, or if you're like me, about 2 or 3 hours of standing up, your knees are screaming, you get a high chair and you sit up so you're looking the guy in the eye. And the guy says, well, how much is that? And I said, how bad do you want it? He said, yeah, well, you don't have any prices marked. I said, well, I don't know whether you deserve it or not. Yeah. And I said, you're not paying me for that. You're paying me for the block of time that I won't get back that I put into making that. And that's where your value is. It's about that time you won't get back. You've spent that time. Time is something.
It's not even the value that you spent making that knife. It's the time that you spent learning the skills and techniques as well, right? People undervalue that. It's those years of not making anything fucking good as well. You know, none of us started off as masters. Well, except for maybe Jackson and a few other people, but most people don't.
and that's a fact. That's an absolute fact. That's people get so jealous of things. You go into a knife show and there's hundreds of different kinds of knives, and it's because the whole idea of the creation is subjective. What's beautiful to one person, not beautiful to another. There was an old guy. His name was Cleston Senior, and he was a World War II vet. And that guy could forge weld anything to anything. And I know what his secret was. He could literally weld galvanized chain link fence to a piece of stainless steel. You never seen such a mess. He showed me a Bowie knife one time. He says, look at that little bright dot there. I said, okay. He said, that's the end of a 51 Ford push rod. They got a lot of chrome in it. I went, okay. But he had a story to tell, and he was selling those old Bowie knives. The handles didn't fit, big epoxy joints. $2,500 a piece. He sell 10 of them in the first of a show. And I'm over there with this high-end mosaic folding knives going, please buy my knives before I go. It's hilarious. It's marketing. It's telling a story. I've
always been a lot of the newer makers here, Steve. When we go to a show, they ask. I think they ask the wrong questions. They are, how much money can I make at a knife show? Or, it's a completely wrong thing to do. And I've had someone say, what do you look for to get out of a show? And I say, I look to catch up with the people I haven't seen since the last show, and to talk to the people that want to pay to come into a knife show. And they go, but what about the sales? And they go, well, the sales don't really matter. Like, if I cover my costs, like Corin was just saying, if I cover my costs, I'm pretty happy. If I sell enough to pay for the booze that we drink,
you've done well.
I'm even happier. And if I take a few dollars home, on top of that, I'm over the moon. I think when you go to a show, like you were saying, particularly about that, if you go there with the mindset you need to make a certain amount of dollars to make it worthwhile going, don't go. You've got to go to the knife show to be a part of the knife show. You've got to go to the knife show to just be in with the experience of it. And even at Blade Show, when we've gone over there, that's like the American knife making shows, from my experience over the last 2 years at Blade Show, it's a very different thing. Australian knife shows I think it's easier to engage the people, easier to get them interested in looking at your table. In America, it was, for me in particular, I found it, quite a different scene where you had to actually try and engage the people to get them to look at your table, because you have, like you were saying, there's so many tables there. There's so much on offer. What are you doing different to make that person stop?
Corin, what was the time you were saying? Like, how long does it take you to spend each table? What was that thing you were saying?
Yeah, if you go to Blade Show, there's so many tables and the show's only so long. And so we worked out you've got about 38 seconds per table. If you want to see the whole show, you can only stop at each table for a maximum of 38 seconds. You can spend a bit less on one table to spend a bit more on another one, but that's it. There's a fucking lot to see at Blade Show. There's no way you can.
No.
There's no way. You just can't do it. And like if you have got a table there, forget it even more. You just walk around, chat to people, and you meet the coolest people. Before you know it, your bag weighs heaps because somebody put a forged skull in it. Someone dropped a forged skull in my bag, and I didn't find it till I got back to the hotel. I'm like, the fuck, my bag's so heavy. I thought. Anyway, so I had to carry that home in my suitcase. Real nice. I forget who that was. I think it was someone anyway, Trey or someone anyway. Someone did that. It was nice. They were good guys. Anthony Kittel, just a minute though. Anthony Kittel put up a thing that said, this guy here, but is not the same comment, that said, there's no knife events in my area. So here's the question to you, Anthony. How many have you held? And if the answer is 0, shut the fuck up. Now, keep going.
You've been told, Anthony.
Yeah, fucker.
Yeah, take
Big
that.
Yeah. Righto, where are we at? Righto. Somebody wanted to know before, do you use liquid paper on the inside of your canisters? Is that
Hell no.
No.
Hell no.
That's for the fortune fire.
That's absolute nonsense. I use burned stainless steel foil to get it out. You can use titanium dioxide, and that forms another oxide that keeps it from biting. But I generally use burned stainless steel foil. If you put fresh foil in there, it'll weld. And I had a little problem. I thought I went to South Africa in one of my demos. I put the stainless steel burned foil in there, and half of it welded. And I went, I've gotten so much better since I come to South Africa. I can even now weld this. That was. But I was really confused because I'd never had that happen. And what it was a different alloy of stainless that flowed a little easier. Now, what happens when you get that molecular bond is you're exposing fresh material, and you can do this cold as well. If you're exposing fresh material in the absence of oxygen, it will weld. It wants to hold hands. It has a propensity to exchange electrons and bite. And so the whole key to any of this forge welding is keeping the oxygen out. You keep the oxygen out, it'll weld. What then you run into unlike materials, and you have to be careful with that because some of them have very, very different flow rates. Back in the 70s when we were doing stainless Damascus, we started welding D2 and mild steel together. And it was like welding up plywood and mayonnaise. It would squirt that mild steel out from between it because the D2 was a die steel, it was a hot hard. And so we had to increase the thickness of the mild steel to compensate for the difference in the flow rates of the material. And so you got to do a lot of stuff. And I tell you a bad story on myself. Pendre made some with D2 mild steel, and he put a Vasco Ware Ceracore in it. And he didn't have a way to heat treat the thing because you need to do that in a vacuumer where it's contained with no air. I had a little furnace with a graphite graphite bath in it, and I would use that graphite to keep it instead of heat treating foil. I used graphite. So I put these 3 blades that he had labored on in this graphite, and of course the kiln didn't have a switch on it or a thermocouple. You just plugged it in the wall, and when it got hot enough, you'd stick a K thermocouple in there, and you'd pull that out, and you'd take the blades out, and harden them. Well, I put them in this little kiln. This is in the laundry room of my house. Back in the old days, I was working in a thing about the size of a closet. I plugged that in, and that furnace was sitting on top of my wife's washing machine. And so I go in the house and I fall asleep. And I woke up and I said, boy, something smells hot. Then I remembered the kiln. I ran out and it's red on the outside. And I went, oh shit. So I flipped the door open, and of course the coils went to vapor. Poof, that Wolfram was gone. It was all the coils burned up instantly. I'm looking in this lava bed, and it's rolling and boiling. This this carbon is boiling in there in this mess. I'm like, oh shit. Anyway, so I grabbed a pair of tongs and I reached in there, and these things were hanging down like melted carrots. They were all stuck together. They were welded together, and the blades were literally dripping little liquid pieces of steel off the ends of them, and they were just fused. They were totally destroyed. Anyway, so I just put them back in there and I shut the door. And about 3 days went by, and Pendry calls me and he says, "Are my blades finished?" I went, "Oh yeah, they're finished." You know, he never asked me to heat treat another thing for him. But anyway, I wouldn't have held a grudge like that if it had been me. But anyway.
You took a few years out of Al Pendry's life.
Yeah, lots of years. Yeah, we were great friends. We didn't work together a lot. We did all the original Wooch stuff. We were a part of a team called Wooch International. It was me and him and Bob Joe, and all the earliest Wooch blades were marked PJS, and I'm obviously the S. And then he got tied up with the
PJs.
Yeah, they
PJs?
were up PJS. And
That's Australian for pajamas.
Yeah, no, but it was Pendray, Job, and Schwarzer. That's almost like pajamas, only older. Ours had button flaps in the bottom, so you didn't have to pull them off the ship.
No Velcro then.
Onesies.
But anyway, that was kind of a funny story. It was funny for me. It wasn't funny for Alf at all. But anyway, we ran together for years. He had this habit. We'd drive like to Kansas City. It's like halfway across the United States to this damn nitro, and he had a van with these extra 100-gallon tanks in it. And so they would, we'd drive, and he'd want you to sit up all day and talk to him. And while he drove during the day, and it became night, it was your turn to drive, and he was asleep in the back. And I thought, this is just not right. But we were coming around Atlanta one time, and they had road construction. And they dug these great pits in the road. And I remembered that. So we went around Atlanta, and we went to Kansas City. We came back, and they filled these pits in and covered them with black tarmac.
What is
And
it? What did you say? Got one.
you're taking a bathroom break.
Sorry, I'm just gonna.
We're hot spotting the Wi-Fi from my phone, and I realise my battery's about to run out, so we got to charge my phone while we're talking.
It's just part of the professionalism.
Yeah,
Knifemaking Down Under.
That's it.
Yeah.
In the old days, we just would have gone flat.
I'm used to this. My wife doesn't let me talk at all. Anyway, did you hear that, love?
Take a photo.
She's talking to me. I go, stop. My phone's dead.
Like what? I love you, honey.
Yeah. Anyway,
Mine doesn't listen.
Anyway, we're coming back, and they had patched these big holes in the road with blacktop. And it's raining, and my night vision wasn't all that good. And we're coming around, and Alf's asleep in the back of this van. And I think I'm driving off in one of them holes, so I put both feet on the brake pedal. I locked it down, and he came from the back of the van and hit the back of the driver's seat. And then I realized there wasn't a hole, so I jumped on the gas, and it threw him back against the back of the van. And he started screaming. He says, pull over. I said, I can't. We'll be killed. He said, I don't care. Pull over. I'm driving. He wasn't going to trust me to drive any further because I dodged the damn imaginary hole. Anyway.
That's nothing. I went sideways onto the wrong side of the road one year going to Adelaide.
True.
Ooh, that was a bit of a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Anyway, next story.
Next story.
So, Steve,
Yeah.
when I went and had a little bit of a, actually there was, let's go back
Stalk.
just as,
The stalk.
yeah, I stalked you for a little bit, but let's go back just a slight period of time when we were doing the push-up challenge.
Yeah.
You remember that? I know you remember that.
Yeah.
And out of the dark comes this old codger, Steve Schwarzer, knocks out, I don't know how many, was it 30 or more push-ups?
Yeah, it's 30.
Didn't raise a sweat. And I'm thinking to myself, there's something about this guy. He's not telling us the whole story.
Yeah.
I stalked you, and I had a look at your website. Now, you, outside of your knife making prowess, you also hold a lot of accolades in powerlifting.
Yeah, 8 world records.
We have a fellow listening to us at the moment, and I saw one of his comments just before, Blair Walker. Blair's a bit of a powerlifting fella. Mate, I have to say, like I go to the gym a fair bit. And I have to say, like when I started reading through your long list of records, I was like, holy shit. What got you into powerlifting? Like where was the draw to that side of things?
I was 60, over 60, and my shoulders got to where I couldn't hardly pick up a cup of coffee or yank a chainsaw. It was painful. And so I started, I went to a friend of mine who's really sharp, and he explained me the mechanics of the shoulder, and he said, you need to do these exercises. So I went to a little local gym down here, and I started doing those exercises. And there was a guy in there. He's built like Jamie, and he was he was in his late 60s, almost 70 years old. Name was Sheldon Schultz. We call him Dutch Schultz. He was a local police chief, and that old guy was doing good mornings. You know what that exercise is, where you bend over at the waist with a weight on your neck with 500 pounds.
Oof.
And he was doing sets with 500 pounds, and he's nearly 70 years old. And I said, what the hell's wrong with you, old man? Somebody try to bulldog you, they'd make a serious mistake. He said, I need a training partner. He was pretty gruff. He was a cop for 50 years. He wasn't totally without humor, but almost there. And I said, okay. So I started training with him, and within 7 months, I broke the Florida State record bench pressing. And then we continued to train for 7 years, and I wound up breaking 8 world records in the bench. And that's how that started. So I don't do anything a little bit. I've got 3 Dan grades in martial arts, different systems.
I saw that too.
It's on the board.
I saw that. Yeah. I've noted a few things down on the board that's out that way you can't see.
It just says karate.
It says karate.
Karate.
Yeah.
What else?
So my wife, and you probably understand why I always say things like "yes, dear," "sure, dear." My wife attained her 3rd Dan in Taekwondo, and that was a very impressive feat to see that happen. And you can tell why. The way I look at things now, if my wife's angry at me, I figure I have to go and run and hide behind a doorway that's about that thick, because I've seen her kick through that thick of boards. And I think there's no place I can hide that's safe enough. So,
be no good.
No good.
The way we fight.
Modern construction. I just keep out of the way.
Kill me.
That's a lesson I learned long ago. You never date or marry a woman that can whip your ass. That's the rule.
She couldn't when I first started dating her, and then it just evolved that she could.
I've always raised my boys not to stick their dick in crazy too.
Yeah, that's good. That's a smart move.
Yeah. My wife, like I said, got a 3rd Dan. My son got the equivalent of a junior black belt in martial arts when he was a little bit younger. And there's me. That's why I started making knives.
Yeah.
But you're
Well,
like a fucking Viking.
It's
You're
a
like
little
a fucking
known.
Viking, bro.
I know.
It's a little known fact, Steve, that I'm also a black belt, mate. Well, I have a black belt anyway. It's just about here.
Yeah, it's a nice one. I like
Yeah.
I like them.
Macrame.
Yeah. That's to help him pick you up when you can't walk.
It's not that strong a belt. You need to be a powerlifting champion to lift him up when he's drunk.
Yeah.
Fair call.
Oh, Lord.
Fair call. Yeah. What
So
are you saying?
that's pretty
What the fuck are
bloody
you saying?
nothing, mate. Have a drink. Shut up. So that's pretty awesome, mate. Because one of the biggest things we see with people is when they, aging prematurely. Like, oh, I'm 60 years old. I can't do that. And it's I train at a local gym where I'm only 47. I'm probably one of the youngest people there, and I see the older guys training, and I love it. I just think it's the best thing. You've got to stay active, and you've got to keep pushing that thing. But yeah, I did sort of look at your records and wonder why that you were putting your hand up for the arm wrestling championship, mate. Now I know.
Well, I had the ability to deceive people with my strength because they look at me and they don't see nothing.
That's why my comment on that Facebook post was, I'll put my money on you without the age handicap.
It was so funny. A guy I know here in town, he's got a son. The kid's huge. He's 18 years old, and he's got probably 18, 19-inch arms on him. And of course, he's got some chemical help with that. And you can see it in him. Oh, this is all natural. Yeah, out of a syringe and a bottle. And those guys are not typically strong, except right when they're peaking on the cycle of whatever they're doing. But arm wrestling's got a lot of tricks in it. And if you know how to lock up and that sort of thing, you can stall a pretty good sized guy. Anyway, this kid wanted to arm wrestle me. And this was after I was about 63 or 64 years old then. And he jumped up on the table and I said, okay, give me your best shot. And so we locked up and he's pulling, and I ain't breaking a sweat. I'm just looking at him. I said, you need to start sometime. And I got in his head. I said, when are you going to start pulling? He was already, he was about to bust the blood vessels in his eyes. And I just had him locked up. I had my shoulder over it. And hell, he had to pick me out of the chair to do that. There's no way with the leverage I had. And I said, once I got in his head, I could feel him relax a little bit. And I bruised the back of his hand on the table. I put it down. And then I every time I see him, I'd say, you tell all your friends some 60-year-old guy beat you arm wrestling yet.
No, forgot about that one.
Yeah. That's funny.
I had a similar thing at Blade Show a couple of years ago. Out of the blue, I got challenged to arm wrestle this guy that was a lot bigger than me. No, a year before. A lot bigger than me. And I was like, oh, dear. Anyway, I didn't do it the first night. And then the second night, these Eric Markman, if he's still on here, those bloody – you got to watch those wily bloody Viking guys, those guys from over in the bloody Norse lands. They talked to this guy and told him that I called him a chicken and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, it happened to be that on the Saturday night down in the pit, I saw this giant and he coaxed me into arm wrestling him. And I did exactly what you said. I just locked him up and just played him while he was going red in the face. I was just looking at him. And I did the same technique of just waiting and waiting. I had one shot at it. And I just felt him relax a little bit and went, oh, did you say start? And then I just went for it. And I had that one shot at the title, and that was all I needed. And as soon as I started pushing him over, his eyes went a bit wider, and then he pulled out. He's yeah. You know, we both win. We both win. I was like, no fucking way. But I tell you what, I had about 5 seconds of effort in the tank.
Yeah.
And I just hit him at the right moment.
Did he shit your pants? Did you get like a little shot?
I was pretty close, mate. The turtle popped out and said hello.
Like, oh.
Definitely the Hershey's kiss in the fucking
Hershey's kisses, that's what we call them.
Jamie's pointed it out a bunch of times that right about now we would be, even right now, we would be in the pit. You know, not, well, 6 o'clock in the morning there.
Well, yeah, we would be in the pit.
We probably still would be. We wouldn't be out.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're missing Blade Show because it's closed. So we'll just have a minute of silence.
Yep.
That'll
We
do.
won't even have a minute of silence.
We just done it.
Steve, there's another thing, because we talk about Blade Show a bit, because those that haven't been there don't understand the impact that it has on, especially as an Australian visiting.
On the knife maker
And
side.
so there's a rule, apparently, that the listeners made up, that every time that I say Blade Show, they have to drink. So I love talking about Blade Show, because it just means our listeners get drunk and want to listen even more.
or turn a blind eye to the stupidity.
Turn the volume down.
That's the reason they
What was your trigger word?
That's where they put. The reason they put all that salty peanuts and stuff on the bar. The more you eat, the more you drink. You gotta get it.
We don't need the peanuts.
We don't need no salty peanuts.
They love at Blade Show down in the pit on a Saturday night or Sunday morning at 2 a.m. They love the Aussies because they're trying to sell all the cans of beer cheap, and they go, $2 a can of beer, and we're like, I'll have 5 of them. We're just throwing money at them.
Yeah. Make it rain, bitches.
We don't have to get up tomorrow. We just
That's it. Well, we do.
We do anyway. Yeah.
It's funny though with that sort of over there.
But we can blame jet lag. Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Jeez,
jet lag.
jet lag.
Oh,
Shocking.
jet lag.
Oh,
Oh,
terrible.
shocking. I think that one show, the impact of that one show and getting to meet so many variations and different people, like from all around the world, is just amazing. Just amazing.
Cory Cunningham says, lucky not
it's
to.
great stuff. Yeah, but back to coming to Australia, you put my name on the list, and if it comes up, I'll be there.
Mate,
Oh, yeah,
well,
yeah.
that's what we want to hear. Enthusiasm, it counts for a lot.
Well, I've got 1 or 2 little tricks I can share. Probably make it worthwhile.
Don't tell anyone until you get here.
Yeah,
Unless we're asking you.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is come down there and steal all your secret techniques and come home with them.
You can make barrel knives. Teach you how to make a barrel knife. You need a couple of extra weeks.
Yeah.
You might, if you're lucky when you come here, you get to make a hammer at Corin's house.
Yeah, well, that was unlucky, actually. Yeah.
We
You
can
know
do
what?
that.
If you come here, I'll be cooking for you.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Oh.
We'll make a mosaic hammer.
Jamie will make some sausage and put it in your mouth too. He'll put his sausage in your mouth. You know Sausage Man? You know Jamie.
Jamie, yeah, I got all of his. The clever man. I got his tools. I got some of his stuff in my shop.
So
He's great. I love Jamie.
So Jamie,
Looks like he's an Irish troll.
something like that. Yeah, something like that.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah.
Hey, come out from under the mountain.
So we call him Sausage Man because at every event in Australia, he comes around with a fry pan. I think it's in his profile pic, maybe not. He comes around with a fry pan and feeds us all. You know, at that point in the show where you're really hungry and you don't have time to stop to eat, Jamie comes past with a fry pan full of Kransky. I don't know, you call it smoked wurst or something.
Like brat.
Whatever you call it. We don't know. We call it
Cheesy
Kransky.
bratwurst.
Yeah. Cheesy bratwurst.
And you just grab a handful of that shit and stuff it down your throat and keep going. He's like He's like an angel amongst dwarves.
Yeah, I enjoy his company. I've visited with him a bit, and I really like the guy.
Corin,
Plus, there's
Speaking of
nothing wrong
angel-
with a guy that can cook, you know?
No, well,
We-
you
we
know,
gotta-
really.
we gotta mention this video. We gotta mention the video you guys have done.
The wrecking ball video, is that the one you're talking about?
It's on my
Yeah, I saw that.
TikTok.
Yeah, he
Remember, a
crashed-
few episodes, I
crashed-
was saying how cool that will be. Have Jamie swinging like the Miley Cyrus in a video, and
Yeah.
next thing I see is these fucking guys tag me, and like, oh, Jamie's on the wrecking ball.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful what you wish. Come on, show it, Con.
Doing my best, dude.
Yeah,
Just chill, man.
yeah.
Stop being so aggressive.
I'm just glad I wasn't up there to encourage Jamie to drink more and get his clothes off before he jumped on that anvil.
Yeah, that would have added some graphic. It might have been censored. Oh, that's hilarious. Oh, yeah. You gotta love it.
We had one take at it because Jamie was pretty uncomfortable. He's not how would you put it, as young, fit, and lithe as he may have once been.
Yes.
And sitting on 150 kilogram, that's about 300-pound anvil. I don't think he was very comfortable. All I heard him saying was, "Get me off, get me off, get me off." But I pushed him anyway, and we got the job done. It was rather pathetic. Probably could have gone harder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's the great sport of sacrificing friends. You have to pick your battles. If he'd had a pan of sausage cooked, you wouldn't have thrown him away.
Here he was hanging on for grim death.
That was a
That's
funny
hilarious.
moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I made a bowling ball gun here a few years ago. It'll shoot a 16-pound ball over a mile. And we took it down to my friend's house. And if you look on a map, you'll see Lake George in North Florida. If you look up in the right-hand corner, you can Google it. You can go to Lake George in North Florida. And up in the right-hand corner, just as you come around the curve of the lake at the top, let me see if I can do it like that. Anyway, you'll see a little thing on the satellite map, looks like a little corral coming out in the lake, and that's to keep the weeds out of us. Well, we had that gun set up there shooting towards the island. I put a quarter pound of gunpowder down that thing and seeded that ball. And we looked a little bit foggy, but not bad. We're looking out across the lake, and I lit that thing, and that ball disappeared out of sight. It's gone. And boom, boom, and it's off. But you can hear it because the holes in it's whistling, going woo, 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 way out across the lake, and then it comes down and it hit, and it was 2.5 seconds from the time you could visually see it strike till the sound report, impact report came back. So it was over a mile, and it threw a column of water high as a telephone pole. And then we heard the bass boat crank up. He wasn't staying for shot 2. That guy was cooking down the lake. Anyway, we had a great fun. We can do that when you come here.
Is that another one of your influences on Josh Smith?
Yes.
Yeah. He loves shooting those cannonballs.
Oh, that's great.
Who wouldn't? Tell me, if you could, you would, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. He's got from his property. It's when you hunt animals, it's with a bow only. But then he's quite happy to throw a bowling ball in a cannon and shoot it across
Over the mountain, up in on Shane Taylor's ranch. It was funny because a close shot out there is about 600 yards. I guess that's 600 meters. And but you can. The beauty of it is you can see the bullet hit because of the dust. It'll kick up dust, so you can walk it in like an artillery round. Well, Shane's brother Dallas and I are friends, and me and Shane are real close, and so we pass stories on each other. Like in the family, everybody's sworn to secrecy, but it ain't gonna last. Well, Shane was talking about this shot he made on a coyote at over 600 yards. And so he was telling me about it. He was all excited about it. With iron sights at 600 meters, he shot this coyote. And I said, yeah. I said, but the damn thing was wounded. He said, he got quiet. He said, you've been talking to Dallas, hadn't you? I said, well, yeah, he shot the leg off the thing. It could barely move. So you're not quite the hero you're making yourself out to be. Anyway, that started it. Then his brother, who is a predator hunter, and he hunts coyotes. Because when you have livestock, you have to keep them down. They're as bad as dingoes in every way. Anyway, so he'd gone out on a snow machine. He's got one of them skidoos where they go into snow. And he's a big guy, huge guy. He's built like Jamie, only about a head taller maybe. And anyway, so he gets on his thing and it rips the crotch out of his snowsuit. On his bits and pieces got frostbit because it was like 15 below zero out there. Anyway, Shane was sworn to secrecy. And so he immediately phoned me to tell me about his brother. And so I waited a week and I called his brother Dallas. I said, Dallas, I said, it's all over the news down here in Florida. It's unbelievable. He said, what's on the news? They were talking about some guy that was out on a snow machine and got his bits frozen. And the phone went quiet. And he said, Shane ratted me out, didn't he? Yeah, I'm doing everything. I'm just trying to keep peace in the family. That's all.
Yeah. You need to ask Shane how well he did at Quigley a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he got one shot.
All right.
One on target. That was it. All you had to do to beat Shane was get 2 on target for the whole event.
I love it. I love it.
I heard a lot of stories. About Shane. Not many of them were very good, particularly when it came to sharing a room with him, at an event. And towards the end of last year, we went up for Rick Dunkley's Big Sky knife show, the inaugural one. And they said to me, Shane offered, Kev, you can share a room with me. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I started hearing all of these scary stories about people who'd shared a room with Shane, like Bill Burke and or Rick and Eric Fritz, telling me all these stories about Shane. And I was like, yeah, you're full of it. They're all lies. Anyway, this is a funny story. We're in the room together, Shane and I, and he's just taken his Glock or whatever out, and he goes, I'll just let you know, I'm just putting the handgun up here on the television, Kev. And I'm like, okay, I've seen enough guns already, no worries. And we share a whiskey, so we're having this whiskey, and Shane looks at me and goes,
"Oh fuck, was this?
I'm going to give you $50, and I want you to go downstairs and buy yourself something real pretty." And I'm halfway sipping my whiskey, and all those stories about Shane start coming into my head, and he was dead serious. It's like, drunk down with drink. Okay.
Well, you got to watch that beady-eyed guy.
I tell you though, it's amazing what you can buy down in the gift store for $50 late at night.
That's funny.
Dirty bastards. Uncle Steve.
Look, Steve, I'm sorry. It's been a good night, but it's probably time to call it quits now. Henning's here.
Your balls. Forget about it.
Did you get lost, Henning?
Oh, no, I've got a student here. I'm busy doing a course.
Oh,
And I
you
just
look
wanted to
busy
get
doing
in
a
going.
course.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah.
I just came and sat down here and thought, okay, that's
Oh,
enough.
yeah.
I'll have a
Yeah.
beer.
You just say, just don't get
Yeah.
your steel too hot. I'll be with you in a minute.
One of
Yeah.
my students finished the knife, Henning. One of my students finished the knife.
Yeah, you bastard.
Yeah, a barrel knife.
First one ever.
That's a legendary knife. I never thought that thing really exists.
Steve,
It's a unicorn, bro. It's a unicorn.
Yeah, it's like a unicorn knives. It's impossible to make them. See,
I
I
know.
Steve, Corin's got a knife supply shop because he needs so much knife supplies because he screws up so much material making one barrel knife. He couldn't make knives otherwise if he didn't have a shop full of steel. So he has to have a knife supply shop because he just
How
keeps
many
screwing
days have
up
we
his
spent
barrel
together?
knife.
4 or 5. Steve, I spent 5 days with Corin at his workshop to make a barrel knife, and we didn't finish.
Matt and Jackson
Then-
Rumble, same thing. And it took Jamie in the end. It took Jamie about 7 days.
Yeah,
7 days to make
To do
it.
a barrel knife.
Yeah.
yeah.
It must have been with the shop lubricants. That's generally the cause.
Yeah,
There's a fair bit
definitely.
of. We
Yeah.
got a barbecue. We got meat. We got alcohol.
Yeah.
That's pretty much it.
The schedule might have been from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. And by 11 a.m. we were sober enough to go back and do some stuff. And then we finished at about 3 p.m. to have drinks.
I've got a bit of a reputation for it. I'm not proud. Anyway, keep going.
As long as we're sharing it. As long as we're sharing the
Yeah.
knowledge.
I got a problem.
As long as
I've
you're
got to
getting
own up to it.
Yeah.
When I stuck my foot to the floor using a lathe, that was when I realised I probably should stop drinking.
Oh, fuck.
Look at Mert shaking his head.
Oh, fuck.
Oh, that's funny.
It's true story though. That's the scary thing. It's a
Mert
true
is sitting
story.
on the-
Fucking sad story, bro. That's a fucking sad story.
So,
So Mert
so
does-
Henning,
Yeah.
you say you've got a student. Is it one of your family again?
No, it's a good mate of mine. It's actually my accountant.
Oh, your cousin.
Oh, yeah.
Is that the same
It's
one that was
got-
on a few weeks ago?
no, not
Is
that
a good student?
Yeah, he's
If
doing
it's a
well.
good, yeah, so he's like, you're paying him how much to come?
Henning can't
Yeah.
afford to be this popular.
Yeah, Jamie says it was 8 days to make.
8 days, bitches.
8 days. There's the hairy bastard. I don't know. That bloke's got more hair in him than the rest of the world, I think. Almost as
And
much
that's
as the
only
amount
on
of hair
his-
I got
that's
on my
only
Have
back.
on
you
his
seen
rear end.
yourself on a fucking mirror? Have you seen yourself on a mirror? Hairy bastard.
On a mirror. I don't stand on
Oh,
the mirror.
fuck
You,
man.
Henny. You, Henny.
Fuck you, Henning.
Fucking bearded
Fuck
South
you,
African
man.
Shrek.
South African trick.
Where were we? This podcast is going to shit.
Yeah, as soon
Let's
as
get back on
there's
track.
a, there's a
Fucking
seems to
some
be
South
there
African
seems to
pokes
be
his head every fucking
yeah,
week.
there's a trend in our ratings and the look at the viewers dropping.
Oh
We've
my
gone
God.
from 700 viewers to 36 as soon as Henning
Moment
showed
I
his
come on
face.
there.
They run, man. They're like fuck.
And the folder, Henning, the folder. Have you finished your folder?
Yeah, it's done.
Yeah, he did.
You're
Yeah,
not
that
doing.
took you a while to make.
You're not doing any gold inlay or anything
That
on
didn't
it.
happen overnight.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's not a barrel knife.
Oh!
Well, let's do a 48-hour barrel knife challenge, bitch.
Ooh.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, okay, I'll do it because that'll mean you'll finish one. For fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Finally.
No, he didn't say which 48 hours of which year.
Yeah, it's
I'll
like
just
3
stagger it a
hours.
little bit.
3 hours
Yeah,
this
like a-
year, 3 hours next year.
Yeah, like 30 minutes a month.
I'm
long.
known for making one knife a year. Last year I had a week off before New Year's, and I made another one. So I got 2 knives out last year. So I'm under the pump this year to get 2 out again.
At least 2.
Yeah.
Corin, just tell me, the barrel knife you had at Blade Show last year, who did you borrow that from?
Oh, I
He
borrowed
obviously
it
didn't
from.
make that one.
Yeah, obviously.
Is that
That
the
was
one
that was. I borrowed that off me mum. That's me mum's
Your
knife.
mum?
That one. Yeah, me mum. Gave it to me
So
mum.
she's also finished one, and you still haven't done one.
No, I gave it to her. Yeah, well, she
Oh,
probably could.
okay.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
make fun of me all you like, but someone says God makes your blades, blame him if what? Takes a while. Oh, fuck, yeah, right, eh? That's a bit wrong.
Oh, well
Anyway.
done, mate. Well done. Don't
Yeah,
worry, I'll
making-
get you when I come over.
So, yeah,
Well
Matt
done.
reckons, anyway, whatever, anyway. What's our next questions for Steve? Come on, Mert, throw one out there.
Steve, just before we got on the podcast, you were talking about the forges. So I think a lot of the guys who are getting into knife making, they're trying to make their forges, and who else can give better advice than you? Who built so many forges and knows the intricacies?
That, on hell, I just got a lesson from Henning. At I build
don't have
all
to-
kinds of forges. I built
You don't have to
probably-
mention Henning. Just pretend like he's not here.
Well, the problem is he told
Milk
me,
and cabbage.
oh, and he gave me an absolute promise he was going to wear his
Sour
new hair
puff.
piece. He was going to wear that new hair piece he bought, and he didn't wear it, as you can plainly see. But that
Okay,
thing looked like a skinned muskrat, and I didn't know his feelings about it. But no, I loved it. I made all kinds of forges. I made some round ones one time. I cast over a basketball, and it was a Tim Water design, and it had a water cooled burner on it. That thing was like the sun. It would go white hot in under a couple of minutes. You could weld anything you put in the door, but the problem is the thermal shock would take it out, and over time it would crack and finally break up look like the Death Star after the explosion. But then the Don Fogg designs that I used for years work, I made them both horizontal and vertical. And then after I saw what Henning was doing, I totally modified what I was doing with it. And I've just finished two big forges there. One of them is for a friend of Neil Kamamura, and the other one I made for me. And I love things. After you fire them one time and get all the chemically bound water out of them, they go to heat within minutes, and you can be welding just in probably 10 minutes or less in the damn thing. So it works. That new refractory was hell expensive, but it was worth it. So that's what I'm doing. Anyway, you can build them out of nothing. And Kale wool and Satanite, I built them, a bunch of them like that, where you line it with Kale wool, and it can be a horizontal or vertical. You cut your doorways in the thing and run a forced air burner is absolutely necessary in any of them. I'm running ribbon burners in this last few. I really like them. It heats and it doesn't run quite as much fuel, but it's efficient. But if you're just trying to be efficient, that's kind of a waste of time, because if you're being too frugal, it can cost you money. So you want to get the gas in there and get it hot and get the work done. If you're having to take 3 times as long to heat a piece of material because you're being frugal, you're not being frugal. You're wasting your time and money to do that. So I want the forges to get up to speed quick, and I want them easy to maintain, and that's a big deal. You got to have this castle light the idea I got from Henning. It's going to make my forges last about 10 times longer. I won't have to rebuild them as much, so that's a good thing. But that design that he has, I modified the way the doors move on it. My doors are backwards from Henning. It's because I'm on the north side of the equator. I think that's what caused it. But
Yeah.
Steve,
But it works.
I have a question before you go on the ilmenite and all that. So what's the advantage of forced air feed versus regular burners or Venturi burners? What's the advantage and disadvantage?
Well, the advantage of that is you can maintain heat at any elevation, and you get a better burn. Venturis don't save you money. I'm walking around trying to find a phone cord. Let me. You still hear me? Anyway, yeah. With a Venturi, you have to. It works on the Bernoulli effect. The speed of that gas is what's pulling the air in, and so you're having to run air, run the propane or LP or whatever you're using, and they're under high pressure and a lot of it to get the air draw to make the thing burn. And so they work pretty good, but there's tends to be tuning problems on them, and they don't heat big billets very well. And I'm into stuff that's of a size that you can. Hold just a second here. Let me get plugged in. What the hell? You think Henning would have worked all this out beforehand? Anyway, it says low battery, you're dying. Well, no shit. Okay.
Is that your patient? What's that?
Yeah. Anyway, that should be working. Should be working now. I'm easily distracted. Anyway, yeah, I don't like Venturi burners. Yeah, you can use them, and yeah, they work okay, but you're requiring on the velocity of the gas to get the air in it, and being able to tune that thing. I use needle valves on my gas flow. You can't control it with a ball valve. You can occasionally guess and get it right, but needle valves is the key to it. And if you got that forced air, you can always choke the air down and tune the thing. And so you got to always be running a little bit of a rich flame in there so you're not oxidizing your material. And that works best. Did that answer your question?
Oh,
I think so.
That does.
He just always looks confused, so it's very tough to say unless he says yes. I'm not confused anymore. So Mert, just say yes. I understand, sir. Otherwise, you look so confused all the time.
Really?
Is he rubbing his eyes?
That's yes for you, Henning. That's for you. Henning. That's for you.
Oh, okay. All right, we got it.
Who are you people and why am I here?
We ask the same question every week. Don't worry. So
Hey,
is
But
your
no,
I
latest-
just kicked in.
Shut up, Henning.
Yeah, that's
I'm asking.
yeah,
a
that's
question.
my thoughts on that stuff. Just, I'm gonna find a,
Is your latest one? Is it a ribbon burner?
Yes, yeah. I went with a ribbon burner, and now that I'm looking at it, I understand why they use them in everything from ovens to all kinds of stuff because you get a little more even distribution of heat. I'm changing places so I can plug this in or see. Get out next to the back. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
Anyway,
we don't want you lose
Yeah,
power there.
I don't want. I hate it when things say you're dying, and I'm not sure what they mean. Because I feel pretty good. At my stage of the game, just waking up is a miracle.
This gets a bit scary, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You could have, you know those, Steve. You could have saved yourself about 4 minutes of grief then, just by yelling out, "Hey, honey, where's my charger?"
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That I do that a lot. I said, "Get your big fat self up from there and find my charging cord. What is wrong with you?" Now, see, I got by with that because she's not in here. She's in the shop. Remember what I told you last week? Don't make me start that ass whooping. Don't make me start.
Or you found a spot that she cannot hear you.
She's out there. I got her. Actually, she's outside, strapped on the back of the tractor to hold the mower down at the counterweight. She's massive.
Yeah, the poor beast.
Yeah, she got up to 106 pounds the other day. I had to run her by the truck to get that weight off of her.
Has she taken the
She's got
dustbin
me
out
building.
today?
Oh, you're gonna love it when you get up here. Hitting that. I'm building her a new leather shop, and it's in the middle barn. I'm sealing the thing up. With, the guy's putting in drywall, and we got central heat and air in there. She's gonna have floor coverings, and it's gonna be nice. And I'm not allowed to even leave a fingerprint in the damn thing, but it's worth it.
Steve, for those who don't know, your wife is also a knife maker as well, right?
Yeah. She
Yeah.
specializes in skagels, but yeah, she's a journeyman smith, and she's pretty damn talented. When I got her, she couldn't cook, and so she could make knives though. So I thought, well, that's a pretty good trade. Anyway, she's got 10,000 cookbooks, and she occasionally produces things that are just absolutely great. Sometimes make things that are so good that we just never have to have them again. I mean, you can improve upon it. Matter of fact, we got sculpture in the yard that she made cooking. It's called gravy, but some of it's been out there for 3 or 4 years. It won't even melt in the rain. And I tried to feed it to the livestock, and they couldn't do it. You know. You hear that, love? I'm bragging on your cooking again.
Steve, you're a legend, man. You're a legend. You're a legend.
Poor woman. I told her she had to set the clock, so I would get up in time for this podcast. So that was funny. She comes in and she touches me on the feet and make sure my legs are fully extended. She touches me on the toes and says, honey. I said, what? She says, 6:30. Yeah, it is. Do you want coffee? I said, yeah, but in a cup. Don't pour it on me like you did yesterday.
That's excellent.
No doubt that she is a good woman. She is a good woman.
I tell you what. Sometimes
I tell you what, we have more fun together. We play all the time, and we had a guy, and I had him building cabinets for floor-to-ceiling oak cabinets, beautiful thing. And anyway, he was out there. He and his wife don't play at all. I mean, they barely speak. And we were out there, and that room out there, got my laser and stuff in it. Anyway, it's downhill a little bit. And we're in there working, and there's smoke coming from under the door from the house out there. He says, something's on fire in the house. I said, oh, no. He said, no, it's smoke. I said, no, that's Laura boiling water. He didn't see any humor in it at all.
We were talking a few. Surprisingly enough, when we had Henning on a few weeks ago, Henning made the mistake of putting his wife on the camera for us, and then we realised how unfortunate arranged marriages can be for the wife.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. Renee is a saint.
What Kev did is he went and hanged out at a casino, and he found the chick with the worst gambling problem, and he made her a bet that he knew he'd win, and told her if she loses, she has to marry him. So, that's how that happened.
Yeah.
And I think Mert bought his wife at a slave market in where are you from again, Mert? Istanbul or something, I can't remember. And,
I'm from Ankara, motherfucker. My wife is American.
Okay.
I made her at a gunpoint. I was like, I bust a cap on you, motherfucker.
Yeah, he moved, that's why he moved to an open carry state.
Yeah. I bust a cap on you, motherfucker. I
That's
held the
why he
gun
moved to
sideways.
Australia.
Yeah.
So she couldn't get any guns anymore. So he felt a bit safer. And
Yeah.
how the fuck Corin
she's-
got away,
she's
nobody
tried.
knows.
Yeah, we
My,
tried to
my,
buy
wa-
guns.
my
trust me.
wife, my wife's just very hard of hearing, and I tricked her into fucking agreeing to marry me.
Twice, when you asked her and when she had to say yes at the altar. So both times.
No, it was more like a yes. What? Yes. Yes. What?
Yeah, don't worry about it.
That's so funny when
True that.
Laura and I decided to get together. She came down here, and she met all my friends. Some of them are very interesting characters, some military guys and stuff. And a lot of them are cops. And they all look at her and they go, "Are you sure you know what you're getting into?" Every one of them. And then she did it anyway. And they said, "Well, they asked me, how'd you manage to capture Laura?" I said, "I went to Michigan. The women up there are all desperate and needy." And so she doesn't allow me to tell that story much.
Lucky she's outstrapped of that tractor.
Looking the cow.
Right, fellas, I don't want to be rude, but I've got to get back to that student of mine. Next week, I'll make sure I've got the day.
His steel's probably got
I-
white sparks flying off. He's like, oh, getting set back in
Steel
a
is
second.
cooked like
I'll just go for a beer.
sparks
Looks
coming
like-
up.
Looks like Merck's Tamahagane by this time.
Henning's going to go
You know
out.
what?
Henning,
Fuck you, Henning. Fuck you.
Henning's going to go out to the workshop with a stick and just go, "I told you not to do that." Just fucking whack, whack, whack.
I'll tell him it's okay.
No,
it's just forging fire. It just happened.
Is that
That's
you were
all.
shooting running past the back of you then?
Yeah, that's my son.
Okay.
There's the student over there. So I wasn't lying. See, fellas.
Did he just run and grab the fire extinguisher? Might get back to your class, mate, pretty quickly.
Okay, gents. Keep
Yeah.
well.
see you. Bye.
Love you all. Bye.
See you, Henning.
All right,
Thanks
take
for
care,
your
brother.
rare visit to our show, Henning.
Guys, I gotta head out soon to
That's
my battery
better.
saying I got
Oh.
5%.
God, I'm glad that's over with. Huh?
Yeah, so are we.
Oh, wait.
Well, Steve, we have to say, mate, we'll probably let you get on with your day. Thank you very
All
much
right.
for being part of the show. We really appreciate it. Oh, as Henning would say, my bloody ribs are hurting from all the laughter. That was a bloody top night, mate. Thank you.
I
Thanks for
enjoyed
joining
it.
us.
Anytime, guys, and you're always welcome up here. So come on, we'll
Yeah.
make stuff.
Well,
I'd
listen.
love to have you in Australia.
As soon as
We'll get it.
as soon as these travel bans lift and everything else, now that you've said that, you probably actually catch a few of us over there, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And I got a place to put you up. And the old lady has plenty of wine and liquor, so you're set. And
Oof.
I've got cigars in a humidor that were rolled in 1966. I'll watch from a distance. Hey, you know what? I'm
She
going to
fixed
make
me
a
in the
barrel. I'm going to go buy a barrel and fill it up with something to drink. And when I hit the bottom, I'll have the knife made. That's a barrel knife. All right. Thanks for the invite. Enjoyed it, guys. And the door's always open. Jamie,
Thank you
I'll
very
see
much.
you.
Thanks, Steve.
We'll
All right,
hopefully,
guys, take care.
we'll hopefully get you out here sooner rather than later.
Hey, I'd love to. And there's Preet. Thanks, Steve. You're hilarious. Thank you, sir. All right. See you guys. Out.
See you later.
Ciao.
See you.
That was funny.
That was funny. He's a hilarious guy.